Young and the Restless spoiler reveals Clare Newman is going through a deep inner crisis, a bitter awakening to the true nature of the powerful grandfather she once admired, Victor Newman. Although she has always longed for recognition and love from Victor, Clare now begins to see irreparable cracks in the ideal image of her grandfather that she once believed in. Victor Newman, as many times before, is once again caught up in dark conspiracies to protect his power and control the fate of those around him. But this time, he does not expect that Clare, his seemingly obedient and loyal granddaughter, will be the one to dare to stand up and question him. Clare has clearly seen the cruelty in Victor's calculations, especially when she realizes that he is secretly interfering in the relationship between Kyle Abbott and his parents, Jack Abbott and Diane Jenkins. Clare has spent a lot of time, effort, and emotion to help Kyle regain trust in his family, especially in the fragile moments when family ties can be buried by misunderstanding and pain. Kyle, who was hurt by his own mother, Diane, has gradually learned to forgive, talk, and open up. Jack, with a forgiving heart, has tried to rebuild the bridge of love between father and son. And Diane, despite her past mistakes, is also trying every day to become a worthy mother. Clare witnessed everything, cherishing every small step in that healing process. But she also quickly realized the suspicious presence of Victor, who always thought he knew what was best for everyone. Clare secretly watched, and was shocked to learn that Victor was deliberately sowing doubt in Kyle's heart, even using psychological tricks to distance him from Diane and Jack. For Clare, it was no longer protection, but destruction. Clare's anger didn't flare up immediately. She wrestled with herself, between loyalty and betrayal. How could she resist Victor, the man who had given her a chance to start over? But increasingly, Clare couldn't deny the fact that if she remained silent, she would be helping to destroy a family she had worked so hard to heal. The inevitable confrontation came. Clare found Victor in his office at Newman Enterprises. Her face was cold, her eyes pained but determined. "You think you're protecting your family, but you're destroying it. You don't have the right to decide for someone else, and you certainly don't have the right to destroy Kyle just because you think he's not worthy of Diane's love." Victor, initially taken aback, then responded coldly with his usual argument about power, responsibility, and the need for hard decisions. But this time, he couldn't convince Clare. She is no longer the weak, easily manipulated girl. Clare has grown up, and now she chooses to stand up for what is right, even if it is her own grandfather she is up against. Clare can never fully forgive Victor. Not because he was wrong, everyone is wrong, but because he has never truly admitted his mistakes. He always believed he was right, that the hurt he caused was necessary for the greater good. But for Clare, no good can justify destroying a family, or exploiting the weakness of others to manipulate them like pawns on the chessboard of power. The question is Victor approaching the border of the unforgivable? Will his pride and instinct for control cause him to lose his entire family, including the granddaughter who once loved him unconditionally? Time will tell. But one thing is certain, Clare Newman has woken up. And now, she was no longer standing behind Victor, she was standing in front of him, ready to do anything to protect what she believed was right. Even if it cost her blood, Clare would not back down. The war between the two Newman generations had officially begun. And Genoa City would never be the same again. The secret war between Victor Newman and the Abbott family. The secret war between Victor Newman and the Abbott family is getting more and more tense. Recently, a tense situation has emerged when Victor, with the help of Michael Baldwin, infiltrated Jabot through some spies that Michael had planted. This not only made Kyle and Jack Abbott feel betrayed, but also complicated the already tense confrontation between the two families. Jack and Kyle's sudden discovery when they discovered that some employees in Jabot were actually Victor's spies, Jack and Kyle were not only surprised but also deeply offended. This was not the first time Victor had used dark tricks to manipulate and control his competitors, but planting people in Jabot was a particularly bold move. Jack, who had always prided himself on honesty and transparency in his work, felt this was too much of an intrusion. Kyle, despite his youth, has begun to understand Victor's tricks better, and he decides that he will not let this go easily. The Abbott family strikes back, unwilling to be fooled. Jack and Kyle decide that they will not let Victor continue to manipulate their company without paying the price. They have found a way to use the spies that Victor planted to their advantage. These spies will be drawn into a power play between the two families, and this time, Victor will not be able to control the situation as easily as before. However, this is also a double-edged sword. These spies, if they do not know how to play their cards right, may be discovered and pay the price. This situation creates a tense race, where both sides have to be careful with every step. Victor and the master calculations. Victor Newman is not someone who gives up easily. He knows that this confrontation is just beginning, and revenge from the Abbott family is sure to come. But the question is, how far will Victor go in his retaliation? He can choose to continue manipulating situations to protect his power, or he can take things to a worse level, making both Jack and Kyle pay a cruel price. It is predicted that one of the tactics that Victor can use is to frame Jack and Kyle for a business crime. If Victor can prove that they are involved in illegal activities, even temporarily, he will be able to put them in prison, even for a short time. This will be a heavy blow not only to Jabot but also to the Abbott family's reputation. The cost and consequences for Claire. While both Jack and Kyle are willing to confront Victor, one factor that cannot be ignored is the impact these actions will have on their loved ones, especially Claire. If Victor manages to get Jack and Kyle involved in a criminal case, even temporarily, it will surely cause Claire great disappointment and she may never forgive them. Claire, who is already very upset with the Abbott family's secrets and intrigues, will now face a huge shock if she learns that Jack and Kyle are at risk of being arrested. Not only will she face difficult choices regarding her family relationships, but she will also have to endure the pressures of public opinion and personal feelings. This will make her relationship with Jack and Kyle more complicated than ever. Resolution and unanswered questions. No matter what, the war between Victor and the Abbott family will certainly not end easily. With each step, Victor proves that he will never back down from a challenge. However, whether Jack and Kyle can protect themselves from Victor's schemes remains an open question. Both will have to fight not only to protect their families, but also to maintain the reputations and careers they have worked so hard to build. With tensions rising between the powerful families, there are sure to be unexpected twists, clever plots, and unexpected counterattacks. Who will emerge victorious in this confrontation? And will Victor be able to maintain his ultimate victory in the face of surprises from the Abbott family? All will be revealed in the upcoming episodes of The Young and the Restless, when the war between the powerful never ends. New plot details in the Newman-Abbott War. When family ties turn dangerous. The long-running feud between the Newman and Abbott families on The Young and the Restless has never been easy. The tense situation between Victor Newman and the Abbotts is now escalating to a more dangerous level than ever. After Jack and Kyle discover that Victor has infiltrated Jabot through agents planted by Michael Baldwin, the situation has become tense. Victor's careful moves to manipulate Jabot have been discovered, and now the Abbotts are facing dangerous plots from Victor. When Victor is backed into a corner, Victor Newman, a man known for his intelligence and tenacity, is not one to be taken lightly. With his plans exposed, he is not only offended but also extremely angry. In these situations, Victor does not hesitate to use extreme measures to deal with his enemies, and when that happens, nothing is too far-fetched. With Jack and Kyle's discovery, it can be seen that they have done what Victor never wanted, exposing his schemes right in front of his eyes. But now, disrupting Victor's plans could lead to much more serious consequences. Victor's rage could lead him to not only resort to clever schemes, but also to dangerous actions that push things too far. Threats to Jack and Kyle. When pushed into a corner, Victor does not hesitate to take extreme measures. Although he often uses sophisticated tricks to achieve his goals, if he feels too threatened, Victor can be more forceful. One possibility that cannot be ruled out is that Victor will use dangerous methods to put Jack and Kyle in physical danger. This is a risky move, but not something that has never happened to Victor. Known for his ability to manipulate situations and make people fall into his hands, Victor could create a situation that Jack and Kyle cannot escape from, putting them in danger both physically and mentally. With his ruthless nature and willingness to use any means to achieve his goals, Victor will certainly not hesitate to take action. Will the war between Newman and Abbott go further? This confrontation is becoming more serious than ever. Victor's next moves may go to a level that no one can predict. What he will do to get revenge on Jack and Kyle is not just a question, but a worrying situation. How far will Victor go to make the Abbott family pay for disrupting his plot? This tension not only affects the relationship between the Newman and Abbott families, but it can also have a strong impact on those outside the war. Clare, a member of the Abbott family, is watching the situation with concern. If Victor can really put Jack and Kyle in physical danger, then Clare will definitely not be able to tolerate the cruelty that Victor brings. Clare and the turn against Victor. Clare, who has been suspicious of Victor's tricks in the past, may now turn her back on him completely. If Victor can really put Jack and Kyle in danger, and if those actions put the Abbott family in a dead end, Clare will no longer see any protection and respect in what Victor does. Instead, she will see Victor as a monster, someone without mercy, only knowing power and revenge. In a world where loyalty and family are paramount, Victor's actions may be unacceptable to Clare. If the Abbott family, especially Jack and Kyle, are harmed by Victor's schemes, Clare will not only feel heartbroken for them, but also betrayed by what Victor represents. She may cut off all ties with Victor, viewing him as a true enemy. Will there be a tragic ending? These tense situations are just the beginning. While the war between Victor and the Abbott family may still have many twists and turns, the tension and danger Victor poses could lead to serious consequences. The big question is whether this confrontation will go too far, leaving Jack and Kyle facing terrible situations, or whether Clare will have to choose between her family and an unpredictable enemy like Victor. If this happens, the war between Newman and Abbott will not be simply a power struggle but a bloody, intrigue-filled war that could lead to irreparable damage to both families. And in Victor's rage, things could spiral out of control, leaving behind unpredictable consequences. The rising threat, Victor Newman and the Abbott family. The war between the Newman and Abbott families on the young and the restless is never short of tension, but when secrets are revealed and family ties are threatened, things can reach an irreversible climax. Victor Newman, cold-blooded and ambitious by nature, has always had a keen eye for those around him, especially when it comes to power and protecting his family. However, after Jack and Kyle Abbott discover the spy plot that Victor planted in Jabot, the relationship between the families becomes more tense than ever. And as always, when pushed into a corner, Victor does not hesitate to use any means, including violence and dark schemes, to protect his interests. Victor is ready to take things further. Victor Newman, while known for his sharp wit and calculated strategies, is not one to let an insult go unpunished. This time, Jack and Kyle's discovery of his spy plot has taken things even further, especially since the Abbotts had decided to strike back. Both Jack and Kyle know that Victor will not stop at just exposing the secrets they have discovered. Therefore, it is entirely possible that he will take bold and dangerous steps to get his revenge. For this reason, the question is whether Victor will dare to take this confrontation to a more serious level. What can he do to put Jack and Kyle in danger, not only in terms of the company but also physically? Victor has shown that nothing is impossible in his fight for power, and this time may be no exception. Dangerous strategies and the costs they cost. Victor is always ready to use any means to achieve his goals. When threatened, he may not hesitate to take extreme actions to protect his interests and make his opponents pay. Threats, preset traps, or even violent moves can become a means for Victor to demonstrate his power. If he decides to take these steps, the war between Victor and the Abbott family will certainly not stop at business fighting but will become a life-and-death battle, when every move can put both sides in a dangerous situation. For Kyle and Jack, the discovery of Victor's plot may have put them in an irreversible situation. If Victor wants revenge, he will not hesitate to put them in dangerous situations, not only legally but also physically. In a world where life and death can change in a matter of minutes, Victor has no qualms about doing whatever it takes to regain control and get revenge. He can even arrange situations to put Kyle and Jack in unexpected and unforeseen danger. Clare and her relationship with Victor. Amidst all this tension, one character who cannot be ignored is Clare. As a member of the Abbott family and someone close to Victor, Clare is faced with a difficult choice. Her love for Kyle is threatened not only by the rivalry between her family and the Newmans, but also by the machinations of her grandfather, Victor. If Clare discovers that Victor is actually plotting to destroy her relationship with Kyle, she will not only be heartbroken but will also face an unforgivable betrayal from the grandfather she once trusted. This betrayal could push Clare to make a crucial decision, cutting ties with Victor. In a family where loyalty is paramount, Clare turning her back on Victor would be an irreversible move. If she decides to do so, it would not only be a great loss for Victor, but also a shock to the entire Newman family. Clare may no longer see Victor as a protector but as a monster, someone who will not hesitate to use dark means to achieve his goals. The consequences and the fall of the Newman family. A wrong decision by Victor could lead to a breakdown not only in his relationship with Clare, but also in his relationship with the entire family. The Newman family was already an ambitious and sometimes heartless group, but if Victor's betrayal became obvious and unforgivable, it could shatter the relationship between the family members. Clare, who has always tried to maintain family affection and loyalty, may find it impossible to continue standing by Victor as things take a turn for the worse. If Victor is turned against Clare, he will not only lose an important member of his family but also lose the support of those closest to him. This will be a huge shock and may lead to far-reaching changes in the Newman family's power structure, weakening Victor's position in the future. It may even be a major turning point in the war between the powerful families in Genoa City. Will betrayal disintegrate the Newman family? The war between Newman and Abbott is reaching a point of no return. If Victor continues to go further in his plot, destroying the relationship between Clare and Kyle, not only this relationship but the entire Newman family will face collapse. Clare may not be able to forgive her grandfather and decide to turn her back on Victor. If this happens, Victor will face unforeseen consequences, as his power begins to crack and his family relationships are threatened. The question is whether Victor will realize his mistake and correct it in time, or will he continue to blindly pursue revenge, losing everything in his power play? And will the Newman family be able to overcome this shock, or will it fall into a quagmire of conflict and breakdown? Subscribe to YNR to update the latest news on our channel.